Welcome back into Talking Fitchburg. Joining today from the Department of Ag, Trade, Consumer Protection, my friend Michael. Michael, how you doing?
Doing great, Jeremy. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming back. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about price gouging, scams, frauds, and so on. But in lines with the infant formula shortages that have been going on here for the last, we'll say, month and a half. Certainly, people are definitely concerned about price gouging when something like this happens. We think of 2020 as some shortages where things started to get a little crazy. But interesting information. I've learned something just talking to you about price gouging in general. But I think it's really important that we'll talk a little bit about things to look out for, how it works, and just to, again, check yourself from scams, because more likely you're probably going to get scammed before you're going to get gouged. Maybe fair statement, maybe not. But first off, price gouging in itself, what entails price gouging in Wisconsin?
Yeah, and I appreciate the opportunity to help understand this. It can get a little bit complicated, especially in a time right now where we see inflation and prices are skyrocketing across just about every industry. And so it's important to understand when price gouging applies and what it means. And in Wisconsin, there needs to be a emergency order that is issued and signed by the governor. And those are done, which is only during a time in which they declare a period of abnormal economic disruption. And there are certain criteria that go into fitting that, and which is why it's rare to see these types of orders being issued. In this particular case, it's being issued for the baby formula because of the factory shutdown and the shortages, and that supply and demand to make sure that a critical product is available at a reasonable price. But even within that, there are limitations. This particular order is only good for 90 days. The governor declares what that time period is. And then what it does is it just prevents retailers and wholesalers from selling that product for more than 15% higher than what it was prior to the declaration. And so it kind of limits that and caps out as to where it can be. Now, there are a couple little caveats where, if they have to replace it with a different product or certain things that are costs are associated with offering that product, those can be passed along to the consumer, but the actual pricing of the same product at the same time is really where this order comes into place.
And is that by brand, or is it just the whole gamma up, in this case, baby formula? So it just can be stretched across the board, or can the governor make it as strict as, X company, because they provide the 95 or 99% of the market stuff? How does that play out?
I'm only familiar with actual products or a particular type of industry being, I'm going to say, generalized in the executive orders. I have never seen one that is specific to a product.
Yeah, and I think you had mentioned inflation in here too, and I can just guess, and you did share some of this with me, but with gas prices too being high and other products being high, you think you might be getting price gouged, but why wouldn't that be the case if I just called DATCP today and said, hey, went to the pump, it was $5, that has got to be gouging? Why would you tell me no?
Well, the main reason I tell you no is because there isn't an emergency order, for fuel prices or any other issue that you might have a concern with. So that's the quick and down. The other one is there's other rules specifically to gasoline pricing. There's a specific formula. It's actually published on our website that tells you what those minimum markups can be and what daily rates are and so on. So, you would be able to go in and see that firsthand. There's some transparency there, but by and large, there needs to be the executive order.
All right, good example one to put down there for sure on paper. So some other things that might come up in this price gouging really might come into things that we're used to talking about on here, and that would be scams and fraud. So going through that, checking out a company before you buy it's probably a good thing. And this, like I said, this is probably across the gamut, but right now we might be focusing in on the baby formula, but so important to do.
Absolutely correct. This can apply to just about any product where there's a supply and demand issue. And we've seen this for years, but anytime you have a specific, something like this where it's getting national media attention, that does all of the outreach and advertising for the scammers in itself. And so, unfortunately, it's too easy to set up a fake website, mimic a legitimate website name, spoof it, whether it be, the front of it looking for identical or just changing one letter or number, mimicking their website and trying to sell that product. And what happens is the consumer thinks they're buying from a legitimate site, pays the money, and then they never receive any product at all. So it's being exploited. So, the ways that we try to make sure and encourage consumers to get around that and verify, because they need it. It's not something this isn't a luxury item. It's something that you need. So first is to check out that company, by searching in a couple different websites, pay attention to that address and see, is that legitimate? If you're buying it from the manufacturer, those are types of website addresses you want to pay attention to. If you're getting them from a third party, you might want to check our website, check the BBB, see if there's been any complaints or if the word scam gets tied to it. And then the other is we really encourage everyone to pay by, credit card or something that has some protections with it. You certainly don't want to pay by debit where you're not going to be able to get that back. But if you determine that it is a scam, most credit card companies will cover that loss for you.
All right. If people want to learn more about price gouging or just general information of the stuff we shared today during the interview, where can they find that at, Michael?
Yeah, great. There's a copy of the order and what that means and some best practices for price gouging on our website, which is datcp.wi.gov. And if you go there and still have some questions and want to talk to someone, you can reach us directly at 800-422-7128, or you can shoot us an email at datcaphotline@wi.gov.
An extra bonus question here for you. DATCP, you had mentioned, stays up on this stuff all the time. So if there was some type of most likely scam, but if there wasn't a legit gouging outside of an order, that's not that. Again, those things consist, but overall, you guys are on top of as far as when reports come in and when we need to put that out there to the media or to let people know that this is happening and call you to resolve said issue. Is that sound correct?
Absolutely. If you go to our website, datcp.wi.gov, on the front homepage, there's a big banner that says Consumer Protection. If you click on that, we'll take you to our news releases, our social media posts. We have a very active Facebook and Twitter accounts where anytime little things come up, we'll throw it out there just for awareness. And if we see a pattern through an industry, we'll do a more robust consumer alert to let everybody know. But a lot of real-time current resources are published there.
All right. I figured I'd throw that in there because I know that you guys have the watchful eye out there for sure. So glad to have your time and your great information again, Michael. Thank you so much for your time, and we'll check back in with you next month.
Thanks, Jeremy. Appreciate the opportunity to share the message.
You bet. Check their website, DATCP. That's where you got to go to get the latest and greatest information. And as Michael mentioned, they stay up to date on this stuff. But you can definitely do some research to learn more. We'll take a quick break. More to come. You're watching Talking Fitchburg.